Hello and welcome into another edition of the Devil Source Postgame Show. I'm Sammy Miller alongside Chris Cartman. Following ASU's 68-57 win over Oregon State, snapping their four-game losing streak and improving their overall record to 16-7 and 7-5 in Pac-12 play. Chris, the Sun Devils, they went into halftime and they were down, but then in that second half, they held Oregon State to only 22 points. What were the key factors?
Well, their defense, once again, kind of has these spurts where an opponent won't score for 4, 5, 6 minutes. They did that. Oregon State's not a very good team and very young. They start 4 freshmen and 1 sophomore. We saw in the first half, Jordan Pope looked like Michael Jordan Pope. Had 4 threes and was making everything. You had guys that were just looking great on the offensive end of the floor. In the second half, he looked more like just Jordan Pope, right? So Oregon State had 2 threes in the second half after kind of lighting it up in the first half. ASU clamped up. They have that ability to do that. And I think even though they didn't have a good overall offensive night in terms of filling up the basket, I think that they were smart in kind of how they approached the offensive end of the floor. They took quality shots. They continued to sort of take advantage of fast break opportunities. They got to the free throw line quite a bit. 22 field goals for ASU. It's not really all that great, but they don't have the type of offensive team where they're going to go out there with a huge amount of firepower on most nights. And for them to be able to pull away late in this game and win the way that they did after that first half, I think it says a lot about kind of their ability to persevere through some adversity.
And like I mentioned before, the Sun Devils did snap their losing streak. So how much of a sigh of relief is it for this squad?
Look, we asked Bobby Hurley about this after the game, and what he said is you just can't really understand how much confidence is lost even when a good team goes through a run like that of 4 games in a row. And you could see that guys were kind of excited running through the halls after the game. The emotional undercurrent of the program just sort of changed as a result of this game. The Beavers are like the get-right team for ASU because that was their last win before they went on this 4-game stretch. Bobby Hurley's kind of friends with Wayne Tingle, so he's probably going to send him a thank you note or something like that.
Definitely.
But yeah, and look, the Cambridge brothers talked a lot after the game about their experiences. They're older. Desmond Cambridge has been through 2 other schools, playing at Brown, playing at Nevada, and seeing how to handle teammates when you go through these downturns. And Devin Cambridge was very successful at Auburn, which was one of the better teams in the country last year, and learning how basically to talk with guys off the court, understand how to kind of connect with them and make sure that they have the right sort of attitude and energy. And that seems to have allowed them to be successful in this game.
And speaking of the Cambridge brothers, they have just been incredible additions to this team. And not only as leaders, but of course on the offensive end, Desmond led the team with 18 points. So what did you see from both of them tonight?
He's such an important player, Desmond, on the offensive end for a team that has a hard time generating quality shots and end of shot clock situations and things like that. He's had 15 or more points in 7 straight games for ASU. It's very obvious that they need him to be a signature offensive weapon. Devin Cambridge is very interesting because he does so much on the defensive end, on the glass, getting into passing lanes, transition, the lob dunks between the 2 brothers. And you can tell whenever he is making a lot of winning plays, if you can call it that, the Sun Devils have a great result. They're 11-0 in games in which he scored in double figures, including tonight. He was the first player on the team to get into double figures before his brother kind of took over late. And they have great chemistry, so their 2-man actions and the opportunities in transition are also kind of where they maybe look the best on the offensive end.
Now, DJ Horn was back in the starting lineup after his 1-game suspension, but didn't make too much of an impact tonight. What did you see from him?
Yeah, look, just the fact that he got over everything with Bobby Hurley and they had good communication. He's an important player to this team. He was their leading scorer against UCLA, and then he went into that rut for a 3-game stretch where he just couldn't score and shoot the ball, and that caused some problems, I think, for the team. But frustration kind of boiled over, led to the suspension for 1 game. The fact that he was not only back playing, but in the starting lineup is really important. even though he was 1 of 6, I think, in the first half from 3 and only scored 5 points in the night, it's more just reincorporating him and getting him feeling good about kind of what's going on with the team, because, again, they're so limited offensively, and he has the ability to score the ball. They are going to need him for the rest of the way.
Now the Sun Devils, they got over the hump. They finally got the win that they were searching for. But what are the key factors moving forward that they will need to do in order to win against some pretty tough Pac-12 opponents?
Look, they've learned that they don't have the ability to be too freewheeling on the offensive end of the floor. They can't just chuck early threes that are contested, and they can't, throw lob dunks that end up in the third row. We've seen too many of these types of things happen. They have to have an every possession mentality on the offensive end, and they have to realize that they can't have lapses emotionally with their energy. That happened against USC, it happened against Washington. If they matured from these experiences, then perhaps they can go on a little run here, because they have pretty much their next 5 games are very winnable. They may even be favorites in all of them, and that will put them in a much better sort of position as they close down the very stretch with Arizona, UCLA, USC on the road.
Now the Sun Devils will definitely have to take the good and the bad from tonight and use that in their game against Oregon on Saturday. But that's it for us today on this edition of the Sun Devil Source Postgame Show. But don't you worry, we have a lot more content on sundevilsource.com, so make sure you give it a follow.